Hello and good afternoon. Welcome to State Listings Inc., the home of MyStateMLS. We are just a week away from Festivus, but you know what? We thought we'd celebrate a little bit early with Fine Festivus and the airing of your grievances. Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Dave. Today's webinar is a little bit different because we're really not going to be teaching anything today. What we're going to be doing is we're actually going to be responding to your grievances. A few weeks ago, we put out the message and we wanted to hear from you. We wanted to know your craziest, your wildest, your most petty fine stories that you've experienced or have been put through from your local MLS. Whether it was a small fine just because you forgot to do something minuscule, like you forgot a word somewhere, you forgot to put a date somewhere, or if it was a huge fine that cost you thousands and thousands of dollars. That's what we've been doing. We've been asking for your stories, and what we're doing today is we've compiled that list of all of your different fine stories, all of your grievances. We're going to let you air them out today, and at the end of today's webinar, we're actually going to ask for your help in selecting which is the wildest fine story that we've seen this year, and whoever presented that story is actually going to win a free year of membership to MyStateMLS. So before we get started, I kind of just want to know if you have been fined by your local MLS this year. So up on your screen right now should be a little poll there. Let me know if you've been fined by your MLS this year. Yes, you have. No, you haven't. So right now we're going to find out, were you on the nice list or the naughty list when it comes to your MLS? So if you can, go ahead, cast your vote. Yes, you were fined by your MLS this year, or no, you were not. All right, it looks like most of you were on the nice list this year. Just about 70% of you were not fined, but about a third of you were on the naughty list. You did get fined this year. So what I want to do is now I want to know, how much were you actually fined by your MLS this year? Let us know how much additional money you had to pay out to your MLS over the course of all of those fines that you received for the year. So if you were fined this year, let us know. Cast your vote now. If you were one of those third of you that were fined this year, let us know. Cast your vote if you were fined less than $50, or excuse me, less than $100, more than $100, more than $250, and the big one, if you were fined more than $1,000 this year. And luckily for everyone that was fined, or those that were unfortunate to be fined, it looks like you didn't have to shell out too much. Looks like it was kind of split 50-50 between those paying less than $50 over the year, and some of those paying a little bit more, but still less than $100. So I'm happy to see that you guys are still trying to dance that fine line with your local MLSs. And not getting hit with those hard fines. Those unfortunate to still get a fine for a minor mistake here and there. You're not having to shell out hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Those that were fined, you were still fined just less than $100. But it's still an inconvenience to have to deal with this fine. You get that letter in the mail saying, hey, guess what? You did something wrong. Now you've got to give us some extra money. No one ever likes that. We don't even like getting regular bills. So having a fine tacked on top of that is just not a happy thing, especially when we're right now thinking about the holiday cheer that we should all be experiencing. No one wants to think about fines. So right now, what we're going to be talking about is the Festivus and the MLS for the rest of us, where MyStateMLS is the only nationwide multiple listing service in the United States. And what we do as a nationwide platform is we break down those barriers put in place by local MLSs, and it gives brokers and agents a nationwide platform to connect with each other, not only on a statewide basis, but on a nationwide platform. Across the country, we are seeing brokers, agents, auctioneers, appraisers, mobile home dealers making the switch to MyStateMLS because they see the benefits that we pose and that we can offer them by being part of a nationwide platform. So why have we seen brokers and agents making the switch to MyStateMLS time and time again over the past decade that we've been doing this? Well, we know that we've seen people unhappy with their current MLS options or their current MLS coverage, whether they were in a more rural area and there was no proper MLS coverage, or they just wanted to expand business. They want to go beyond the local boundaries of their local MLS, or maybe they want to reach out into a second state, a neighboring state. Or one of the big reasons we see people joining MyStateMLS is to get an edge over their competition and be able to promote being part of a nationwide platform when they meet with those sellers who are considering selling their home. What you've got to do is set yourself apart from your competition to win those listings, because as we know right now, inventory is still low in a lot of parts of the country. So you really have to promote yourself and make sure you win that listing and beat out your competition. And having a nationwide edge could certainly do that. And then, of course, as our friend Mr. Costanza said, he has got a lot of problems with fines. And that's what we're seeing today. And what we're just talking about today is we've seen people switch to MyStateMLS because they know that we do not use the F word here. That is right. At MyStateMLS, no profanity. We do not use the word fine here because we're just not about it. We treat our members with respect, and we're here to help you succeed in your business. And as we've said before, those unnecessary fees and fines are not a good way to help you expand and grow your business. So here, we do not use the F word. That's why for the past 2 years now, we've been setting up that Festivus Pole and giving you a platform and a chance to air your grievances about some of those past experiences that you've had from your local MLS when it comes to your fines. So without further ado, let's set up the poll. We've got it here. It is time for the airing of the grievances. This is what we've been talking about leading up to for the past month. Now let's hear some of your stories about some of the bad experiences that you've had with your local MLSs and why making that switch to MyStateMLS could be a real game changer for you. So before we get to all of the stories that involve actual fines, we actually did get submissions that weren't related to fines, but they still were problems that agents and brokers were sharing. So we wanted to still share some of those grievances and let those brokers and agents share those issues that they have with their platforms that they've been using. Jer from New Mexico said in order to join his local MLS, you had to pay the realtor dues as well as to become that member of that MLS. And he kind of feels that's a restraint of trade and unfair to those that do not want to be a realtor. He says this country is built upon the idea of having a choice. But with his local MLS, it looks like he had to become a realtor in order to become a member of just that local MLS. But he said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. And what did he do? He switched over to MyStateMLS. Because MyStateMLS is a privately owned MLS, in order to become a member of our platform, you just have to make sure that you're licensed to practice real estate in your state. If you want to be a realtor, you want to maintain that realtor designation, all you have to do is join your local board or association and still maintain that realtor designation. Thomas had a nice long laundry list of problems. So what I did is I kind of broke down some of the things. He prefaced his email by saying, I've yet to be fined, knock on wood, but as Mr. Frank Costanza would say, in the spirit of Festivus, I've got a lot of problems with you people. So what we've done is I've compiled the bullet points of his problems. So we've got Thomas's list of problems here. One of the issues is getting timed out when entering a listing. I've actually heard this complaint a lot of times. Some local MLS platforms, when it comes to putting your listing in, it's one long listing sheet. You have to put everything all in at once. And if you take too much of a time, you're going too slow and it's just taking you a long time to put that listing in. If you take too long of a time, you could get kicked out of the MLS and everything that you've entered, all that work that you've done could get timed out and get completely lost in the ether of the internet. And you have to start all the way at the beginning. Some platforms also keep you constrained to just one tab. So if you want to switch between two different listings, you can't really have two sessions open or two tabs open on the MLS because it's blocking you from doing that. And then on top of that, it doesn't make sharing listings easy. You have to kind of jump through hoops. Or Thomas even said he actually goes to just another website to where that listing is and shares it from that just because it's so hard to actually be able to share from within the MLS. So this is kind of where MyStateMLS shines a little bit to answer some of his issues. Our platform is super easy and intuitive, and we've actually tried to make it as simple as possible and user-friendly with the way our platform's set up. In fact, we've made adding listings one of the easiest portions, and what we've done is instead of being one long listing sheet where you've got to put in all that information and race the clock in hopes that you get the listing in before your session times out, we actually have an autosave feature. So what we do is we break down that listing process into several different steps. And every time that you go to a next step, your listing's being saved as a draft. So you don't have to worry about losing any of the information you've put in. So even if you realize that you've got to go to a listing appointment, or you have to pick up the kids from school, you've got a doctor's appointment, the power goes out. As long as you've hit the next step on that listing, all your work has been saved and you can return to it at any time, even on any device. So you could go ahead, pick it up on your phone and continue the work there. But that's some of the stories that didn't involve fines. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of it and talk about when money was put on the line and someone had to shell out additional money just because their local MLS sent them a letter saying, hey, no, you did something wrong. Here's a bill. So let's go through some of these now, and then we're going to wrap things up and talk about who has the most outrageous fine story. So Matt from North Carolina reached out. And he said, I was fined $1,000 because one of the pictures of the home had a tree in the middle. So I could not get a good full frontal without taking out the tree. I just want to say this photo that we're looking at now, this was not the actual property photo. I just went out and found a picture with a house that had trees in the front. So here it is. We can see most of the house, but of course we've got some nice large trees there blocking a lot of the view. This is just a wild story to me. That you can get fined $1,000 because of a tree. That's just crazy. It's not like we can go in and Photoshop out the tree. And even if we were to Photoshop the tree out of the image, then you're painting a false image of what the house actually is. What if a buyer saw the picture without the tree and they got to the house only to be let down saying, oh, well, that tree wasn't in the photos. I didn't know that tree was there. So you're actually providing an actual truthful representation of the property by taking a picture of what's on the property. If you were just eliminating things in a way, that's kind of lying. It's not being truthful about what that listing is. So kind of wild, especially $1,000 is a huge fine for an issue of a tree. You can't move the tree. What am I going to do? Pick up the tree? Saw it down and then duct tape it back together? That is wild. $1,000 that's crazy. Jay Brittany from New York, smaller fine here, and it's all because of 4 words were typed into that property description. She said, I got fined $25 for writing 24-hour notice required in the property description section. Apparently, you can only put that in the showing instructions. So this one, again, it's a minor detail, and it leaves you wondering, how come there just are not warnings first? With MyStateMLS, if you put a listing in and you enter it to go live in the platform, our team here will review it and let you know if there's any issues. If you put in contact information, if you put in information that's not supposed to be in the property description, we'll let you know. But to me, 24 hours notice required, I don't think there's any violation here. There's nothing wrong with that. It's just saying that the homeowner would like 24 hours notice so they have the property ready to show it to some potential buyers. So $25 for that is, I would get very annoyed at that very quickly. But I mean, at least they kept it small. It wasn't $1,000, right? So Bella, also from New York, wrote, my first time entering a listing, I added call or text listing agent in the property description and got an immediate fine of $50. Again, so here's Bella's also saying something that I agree with, is not a big fine, but it could at least go with a warning first. She just says it's absurd to get fined for just a little bit of text. And here she didn't say whether or not she put in the phone number for herself in the property description. So for me, I don't think there's anything wrong with that because again, she did not try to bend the rules and put her phone number in the property description. She just went ahead and said, contact me. Kenny also having an issue with the contacts. He said he was fined $50 for putting contact me in the public remarks. And here he specified there was no phone number or email included. All he wrote was contact me. So we're kind of seeing a reoccurring pattern here. Especially James, also in New York, says, I was fined for putting call agent in the public remarks with no name or number. And this was for a commercial property where maps were required. So James probably put in contact me for more information because you're going to need this kind of info if you're actually interested in this property. So 3 entries back to back to back saying that their MLSs were giving them a hard time just for putting in the words contact me for more information. Again, they weren't putting in contact information, they weren't putting in phone numbers, they weren't putting in emails. So not a huge violation, but they were all three of them were fined just for insinuating that a potential buyer contacts them. But with MyStateMLS, what we do is we actually allow you to put your contact information on your listings. We actually have two separate text fields when it comes to marketing your property. We have one for traditional marketing text and another one for self-promotion. In this field, the self-promotion field is seen within the MLS when they're seen by members of the public, and it's also sent to some third-party sites as well, so that way you can generate more leads that way. And what I wanted to do is I just wanted to quickly jump onto MyStateMLS just to kind of show you what that looks like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up one of my listings that I've just got drafted up here that we can take a look at, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go down to where my marketing text is for my property, and you're going to see that we actually have two different fields here. So I've got my public unbranded marketing text. This is where we're going to give our romance copy and talk about the property, talk about why a buyer would love it. That's just our regular typical marketing text there. But below that, you're going to see I've got my branded postfix. So I can say, for more information, call Dave at 888-769-7657 or email Dave at NewYorkStateMLS.com. And what that does is that gets attached to the bottom of my listing. So when a member of the public goes and views that listing, they'll see my information on there and they'll see my marketing text. And then right at the bottom, they're going to see, for more information, call Dave or email him at this email address. So MyStateMLS allows you to do those sort of things where you can go ahead and put your contact information directly on your listings. Because with MyStateMLS, we always have believed that if it's your listing, it should be your lead. Christine's got another story. Her fine, about $100.25, so $125, so really more of like a $25 fee. And this is all just because she wanted to join her MLS. Looks like she hadn't been a member of her local MLS for a little bit, but she wanted to rejoin a little bit earlier before the beginning of the year. She wanted to join about a week ago. And for the remaining 3 weeks of the year, the MLS said she was going to have to pay $100 plus a $25 fee just because her membership hadn't been active for over a year. They don't prorate and they penalize you forever. So they did not care that she was a member before. They said that $25 fee is always going to be tacked on when you want to reactivate your account. So just a $25 reactivation fee plus $100 for 3 weeks. That seems like a lot of money for 3 weeks of membership. So, but with MyStateMLS, we offer monthly and yearly billing at any time. We don't require you to join at the top of the year or quarterly or right in the middle of the year. You can join whenever you want. So if you were to sign up today on the 16th, you sign up on the 16th. Your account would renew on the 16th of every month or on the 16th of every December because we have both monthly and yearly billing options. You can cancel at any time. And if you want to reactivate that account, we're not going to charge you an additional fee to reactivate that account. And if you've already had that account before and you're still with the same brokerage, all of your information is the same, we can actually reactivate that previous account, which will have all of your listing history still associated with it. So that way you're not losing that information that you've done while you were a member in the past. So MyStateMLS, a very easy way for you to get started back up. So if you ever need to cancel your account because you're sick, you're leaving for holiday, you're going on an around the world trip for 2 or 3 months and you want to come back, you just let us know. We help you reactivate that account. Monthly membership is $40 a month and yearly is $330 for a full year. So Christine was going to be charged $125 for just 3 weeks, where she could have been a member of MyStateMLS for just a little bit more, for an extra $200. She could have been a member of MyStateMLS for an entire year. So now that we've kind of gone through, let's talk about this year's finalists. We've got 3 different fine stories. We're going to go through all of them right now. And then at the end, I'm actually going to let you, those that are with us today, pick which fine story you think is the most outrageous and should win that free year of MyStateMLS membership. So our first story is coming from Lori in New York. They say, I've been a member of my local MLS since 1985, but later dropped that MLS after scaling down their business. Fast forward several years, and they needed to rejoin the MLS. But as you know, depending on how long you've been away from a system, things change, things update. They needed to reacclimate themselves with the platform since the last time they used it was at least 5 years ago. But they ran into an issue and they could not upload pictures. They tried to call the MLS for help. They tried to call other realtor friends for help, but no one could help them. And Lori was being charged $50 a day because no photos were attached to that listing. Lori then realized that they were going to need a whole new computer altogether to get this started out. They weren't financially able to, and time kept going on. They were embarrassed as to how much this ordeal cost them, close to $500, all because they couldn't get a picture uploaded to their listing. $500, so at least a week. So more than a week that this listing went without a photo. Lori had to pay $500 because they had to find a new computer, order the new computer, get the new computer delivered, install the software, and get this computer updated till the time that they were finally able to get their computer, get the photos uploaded to the computer, and then uploaded to the listing. It cost them an additional $500. And then someone may question, well, why not just take the listing off the MLS and not be charged? Chances are, if they pulled that listing off the MLS would have been like, well, that listing's active. Why is it not on the MLS? And probably hit them with a even larger fine. So Lori definitely stuck between a rock and a hard place with this one. And no matter what option she chose, she still got stuck with a fine, all because of a single photo. But what we've got to do is we've got to remember that not all properties are photo ready right away. Maybe the homeowner needs to do some cleaning up. They wanted to wait until they finished painting the living room. Maybe you're waiting for the professional photographer to take those nicer pictures. While we know that photos are certainly the thing that helps properties sell the best, they shouldn't be a requirement. And with MyStateMLS, we understand that, and we do not require you to add photos in order to make a listing live. We understand that you have to wait for the property photographer. We understand that you're waiting for the new pictures or waiting for the paint to dry. That's okay. You can add those photos to your listing whenever you're ready. Of course, the listing is going to be a little blank. It's not going to have the photos. Some third-party sites may not take the listing right away without the photos, but you're still at least getting that property out there. You're starting to advertise it, and you're letting people know that this property is on the market. So $500 for no photos, it's pretty wild to me. Our next story coming from Nick in New York. He says, my local MLS forced me to go through arbitration due to an agent demanding to get compensated for a deal that she not only couldn't put together, but in writing stated that she didn't want anything to do with the buyers. Simultaneously, there was written documentation from those buyers saying they didn't want to work with that individual. After all of that, the MLS still went to arbitration and they decided in favor of that other agent, and Nick had to pay compensation close to $30,000 to that agent. To add more insult to injury, the fine was double what he even collected for the sale. So I don't even want to guess as to how much that fine was that Nick had to deal with and still have to sit through arbitration, even though there was allegedly all of this documentation from that original agent and from the buyers saying that they've essentially cut ties with one another. And then after Nick took over the sale, closed the home, those buyers were happy with what Nick had done. He still had to pay out compensation and still had to pay an astronomical fine. So I really don't want to know how much that fine was. And I got a feeling Nick didn't want to share either because he just said it was double of what he even collected for the sale. So that one really hurts me to see having someone to essentially lose out that much money for all of their hard work. You put in all of this work to close a deal, to work with the buyers, to work with the sellers, to work with the other agent, only for someone else to come in and collect that money, and then you have to shell out even more money because of that. So this one especially hurts. Our last violation is coming from Alice in New York. She says, my brother had passed away, so when she listed his property for sale, she ran into some issues. She said the brother had some land and he built different outbuildings on the land for storage. There was one for wood, there was one for food storage, and you can see all these different outbuildings with different uses. And she put on the listing that no trespassing, and to make an appointment and either come with an agent or be there with the owner. And I can understand why she would do that. She said she didn't want anyone to get hurt, which again, if you've got a lot of land, you've got all these buildings, you don't know what condition these buildings are in, you don't know what's inside these buildings. If you don't want anyone to get hurt, I feel that it's perfectly acceptable to put something like that on. I've never seen a listing where you say, all right, just go browse the house. Look at any type of bank-owned property or short sale listing. You can't tour those properties at all. You can't just knock on the door and walk in. There's usually a padlock on there. You may be able to peek through the windows. You may look from the street. But typically when a house is on the market, that's not an open invitation for anyone to just walk on up and start browsing the property, especially if you've got land for sale. And if it's a large plot of land, you do not want people just roaming that property. You don't know what's out there. There's wild animal out there. So unfortunately, Alice was fined for this as well, because again, she was just looking out not only for the seller of the property, the family's estate, but also for anyone walking through that land. Again, you don't know what's out there. They could have gone into a tool shed and something could have fallen on them and they could have gotten hurt. So Alice, just trying to be doing the right thing, unfortunately was fined. And with that, brokers and agents need to consider the wishes of the homeowner when that listing's put up for sale. If a property owner needs advance notice or has rules regarding how the property is shown, those wishes need to be considered, and you really can't go against what the person that owns that property says. You can't just give an open invite letting anyone come in. And that's why MyStateMLS contains a members notes section where these types of concerns can be shared with other users on the platform. And when it also comes to members' wishes, MyStateMLS also gives members the ability to control where their listings are syndicated to. Because again, you may have a high-profile client that doesn't want their listings seen by looky-loos on the internet, just browsing for houses in their area. It may be a divorce and the couple doesn't want the neighbors to know that things are a little rocky at home and they are selling the home. So with MyStateMLS, not only do we send listings out to hundreds of different sites around the world, we give users full control as to where those listings go. So anytime that you put a listing into the platform, you're able to go through and select which sites you want your listings to go. So again, if you've got a high profile client and they don't want their listings on certain sites, you can do that all with a couple clicks of your mouse when you put that listing in. So right now, before we go ahead and let you decide who this year's Fine Festivus winner is, let's just kind of talk about who's using MyStateMLS and why they might be making that switch. As we've seen a lot of stories from a lot of people upset with their local MLS, so we can see why they may already be making that switch to MyStateMLS. So we already know that we've got those individual agents, those individual brokers making that switch because they see the benefits that MyStateMLS poses. We also see whole offices and brokerages using MyStateMLS. They're using it as a recruiting tool, as a retention tool to bring more agents onto their firm. And then we see brokers using it because they're able to get a discounted office rate so they can give MyStateMLS to all their agents at a bundled low price. We also have land and commercial brokers that specialize in those niche listings, whether it's large commercial buildings or large plots of land. We know that not all third-party sites take those types of listings. So what we've been doing here at MyStateMLS is reaching out and creating new partnerships with those third-party sites that specialize in land and commercial listings. We also allow auctioneers to put their listings in and take advantage of all the different benefits of MyStateMLS, as well as mobile home dealers and agents that sell land lease properties. So no matter what type of business you are in the real estate world, there are definite benefits and reasons that you should be using MyStateMLS. But without further ado, let's find out who this year's Fine Festivus winner is. So go ahead, cast your vote now. Which of the last three stories you think should be this year's Fine Festivus winner? Is it the person that needed to get a brand new computer to upload their listing photos? And if not, they were actually fined $500 because they did not have the photos added? Is it the agent that had to offer compensation after the arbitration, where they had to go deal with a whole arbitration process, pay out $30,000 to another agent that did not even want to be involved with the sale? On top of that, also have to pay a large fine to the MLS? Or that agent that put no trespassing in the comment section of the listing and was fined by the MLS just because they were looking out for everyone's safety. Go ahead and cast your vote who you think should be this year's Fine Festivus winner. All right, so it looks like Alice is this year's Fine Festivus winner, with 80% of you voting for her story where she was fined for putting no trespassing up on her listing because she did not want anyone to get hurt by browsing that large plot of land with a bunch of different outbuildings. So Alice, congratulations on your story. Well, thank you for your story. I'm sorry you had to deal with that fine. We hope we can make things better by offering you that free year of membership to MyStateMLS. We'll be sure to reach out to you and give you your prize and let you start using the nationwide multiple listing service. For all of you joining us that came with us today, thank you for being with us. Thank you for participating. We hope to see you during next year's Fine Festivus. And hopefully down the road, we'll start getting less and less of these stories because we'll know that more and more of you are joining MyStateMLS, where you do not have to deal with any fines or penalties because we want you to succeed in your business. If you have any other questions about MyStateMLS, if you have questions about how our system works, or you're interested in becoming a member of MyStateMLS, whether you're an individual or you'd like to offer it to your entire firm, please let me know. Feel free to email me at dave@mystatemls.com. You can also call me at 888-769-7657. But the best way is to get right into my inbox at dave@mystatemls.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a happy Festivus, have a happy holiday, and we'll see you all very soon. Bye.